out and speak on behalf of my presidential hopeful, President Bernie Sanders. But let me tell you why. I remember it was 1984, that was some 32 years ago, when I was 18 years of age and had the honor to first vote for my father, Reverend Jesse Jackson, to become President of the United States. And then in 1988, I remember going into Burlington, Vermont, and there was a man that greeted us with open arms. If you will, I would like to think of him as being the Branch Rickey in modern American politics. Vermont, as you can imagine, is highly white in its population, but he understood the seeds of coalition building way back then. In 1984 and 88, he served in the Rainbow Push Coalition, planting the seeds for racial justice, economic equality. He has brought about a better American. He crossed the color line. Why would you endorse an African American in Vermont while he was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont? It wasn't for political expediency. He endorsed him because it was the right thing to do, and he thought Reverend Jackson would have been a shining light and put America on a better path. And you and I know politics can be a very dirty game. But I saw something happen most recently that is probably one of the most despicable things I've ever seen in politics. Not everybody that has benefited from civil rights has been an advocate for civil rights. So when a man has actually put his life on the line and been handcuffed and is sacrificed, he should not be vilified or lied upon. That's just despicable. Bernie Sanders was here in Chicago in 1962. We are in Hyde Park in Chicago. He helped bring about desegregation for housing for African Americans in 1962. We thank Senator Bernie Sanders. Not everyone in our community stood with Reverend Martin Luther King while he was alive. It's a painful truth, but it's a fact. There's a minister's church not very far from here named Reverend J.H. Jackson, no relationship to us. After they changed South Park Boulevard to Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Boulevard, he changed his mailing address from the Boulevard of King Drive to the cross street so he would not have to see Reverend Martin Luther King's name on his mail. Why did Bernie Sanders stand with Reverend Martin Luther King in 1963 in Washington? Because it was the right thing to do. Others might have gone with Goldwater or whoever, but that's their business. Some people got it right the first time. And in 1984 and 1988, to work with my father and to break that color line that we now take for granted, he didn't run against President Obama in 2008. He endorsed him and embraced him to come back to Vermont in 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, there are few people that are true American statesmen. And I'm talking about a man that has risen above politics, and the politics is what's in it for me. A statesman says what's in it for all of us. That's who Mr. Bernie Sanders is to me. And let me share with you something else. There are those that we have to thank that have planted the seeds for racial and economic justice. Now, you cannot understand the humiliation he has gone through in breaking down barriers. And then for people to question the acts of courage that he has incurred in his political career. Now, if somebody calls you, and let's be honest, and says they want to meet with you because they've got $10 million, say 10 million, and they want to run you for office, and they think you're handsome, beautiful, smart, intelligent like you are, but they just want to be able to talk to you. How many people in here would say, I refuse to take that call? Okay, I'm glad all of you all refused. But now, since it's hypothetical and hasn't been given you that opportunity's not been presented to you, many people won't do it. He wanted to take 27 at a time. Why? Because he knows the person that brings you to the dance is the one that you have to dance with. He doesn't want to represent the rich and the powerful, the greedy and the predators. He wants the poor, the disheartened, the discouraged. He wants them to believe in America again. That's why I support my presidential hopeful, Mr. Bernie Sanders. And now let me tell you, we're proud that Reverend Jackson won 9 states in 1988, but let me tell you, he couldn't have done it alone. And when Mr. Sanders told me last night, he says, your father inspired me in 1984. He's picking up the mantle. He has the baton. He's running this track and this part of the race. This is one continuous race. It is not stopped for justice. We know the history that Dr. Martin Luther King was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi by Thoreau. It's the same love and justice. It's the same lap. We need justice for all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me make sure. Dad, we good or not yet? He says, I got some more time. Don't go to sleep on me yet. It's one continuous cycle. And I'm going to ask you, what side are you on? I like to go forward, not backwards. We've got a mess to clean up. And I would like to tell my children, if you say you're sorry, ask for forgiveness, and then say, what can I do to fix it? Don't tell me you're sorry about locking up African American men and don't do anything about it and haven't tried to make any amends. That's empty. And you can judge a person by who their enemies are. When the CEO of Goldman Sachs says that Bernie Sanders is a dangerous man, oh, that makes my heart happy. When the establishment says he can't win, that makes me start pushing back and feeling better about myself. When I see the bigotry that's being oozed by a presidential candidate whose name does not even need to be mentioned, but he understood last night, this is Chicago and we don't play that. Mr. Trump doesn't have enough money, doesn't have enough time, and doesn't have enough love on his side. And we welcome you to come back to Chicago, Mr. Trump, since you turned around and ran. Come on home, Trump. We saw what happened in North Carolina, in St. Louis. Welcome home, Trump. There's going to be an end to that foolishness. No more intimidation. No more threats. Big money doesn't spend here, Trump. And I think Mr. Bernie Sanders, why would he stand up for poor little Laquan McDonald? There are no votes in Laquan. Laquan is dead. But he says no one in public office will be shielded from justice if you did something, suppressing evidence, hiding videos, aborting justice. That's the sort of man I'm proud to support. When he sees Governor Snyder, Mr. Bernie Sanders says, you must resign. You're in the way. As we speak, Flint, Michigan still does not have fresh running water. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege, my honor to bring two freedom fighters, two brothers, the Reverend Jesse Jackson and our very own, welcome home.